Hi, good morning. My name is Laura Litton, and I'm the director of teacher happiness here at Classkick. As a former teacher and instructional coach and principal, I'm excited to welcome you to our Classkick 201 today. In the next 15 minutes, we'll go through a more intermediate level of things that you can do on Classkick in case you're not aware of them, and hopefully show you some tips and tricks that you can bring back for your students and for your colleagues to your classroom. What I'm going to have you do is log in today using STJ45X. STJ45X, which is, in my case, the student tutorial. And then I can log in using my first name or my last name. We have some teachers who are having students using their last name and then a first initial and then a 3-digit code. And that on the iPad, unfortunately, autofills and autocompletes once they're on the roster. But on the Chromebook desktop or laptop version, we do not autocomplete. And so that's a way that they're finding security in having students log in using a quick password. So there's a little tip for you in case you're not using an iPad. In this particular case, I'm using an iPad this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and log in using my first name. And once I log in, I'm going to see all of the work that's part of the student tutorial, as well as some tooltips that pop up because I've implemented them on my iPad. I'll show you in the end where to turn these tooltips back on in case you'd like to turn them on for the next student or the next teacher that's going to use your iPad. But basically, some things to draw your attention to. If your students say that they need more room to write, because they feel like the iPad is kind of clumsy for a writing tool, you can have them zoom in by using 2 fingers to pinch into the canvas, and we zoom all the way into 500%. So then, even if I'm using my finger at the thickest level like I am right now, when I go to write on Classkick and then I zoom it back out again, it should be nice and neat for my teacher to view and for my writing to appear in a nice, normal fashion. Okay, so there's a tip. You can also scroll up and down on this page using the scroll bar on the right-hand side. So if your students are like, I don't have enough room, just have them scroll down. You can also use 2 fingers to scroll down the page. And sometimes students say that they make little dots when they're scrolling. For the most part, we go and we erase any of those dots. If we notice that you've just written for a moment, we notice it's probably accidental, then we go ahead and erase it. But if they scroll for a little bit longer or leave a longer mark on there, then we do leave that on there. But you can use an undo or redo in order to get rid of those lines up in the top right-hand corner. So undo or redo brings back any of those actions up to 25 things that you last did. A lot of times the students would like to type, but they would like to have a control over the size and the color of the font that they're using, as well as how that text is displayed. So for example, if they're putting an image next to the text, one of the things you can do is drag the text down to where the keyboard is, and we will automatically scroll the page down. And now if they're typing an example sentence and they want it to be, they want it to stand out or look really big, then they can always make it larger by tapping on this A+ button, and you can see that it starts wrapping onto 2 lines. In order to unwrap it, make it fit onto one, you can just drag this green arrow across, and that will have it fit on 1 line. Or if they'd like to make the whole thing a different color, so if you're leaving feedback as a teacher, for example, on the iPad, you can go and tap in the empty space and say select all, which will grab all of the words that you typed, and then tap on the red part, and there you go, you've given feedback in all red, for example, to this student, or whatever it is that you'd like to do. Students can also, a lot of times we get asked, how can I underline a text box that I've just written? So what I normally do is actually just drag the text above where it currently is, take the color that I'd like to underline it in, leave it underneath it, and then just drag the text back. And that way it's a quick way to underline anything that I've written. On the web, you also, because you're switching between different tool sets, you can underline any part of text that you've just written without having to move it. So if your kids are more likely to underline things that they've written, you can also direct them to using app.classkick.com on a Chromebook desktop or laptop. A lot of times people will say, I've got a really great picture, but I've got multiple parts of it that I want to insert. Can I insert them at the same time? And the answer is yes. If you take a picture that you've taken on your iPad before and you'd like to use multiple parts of it, so maybe I come in here and I've got this great map that I want to use. I don't want the whole thing. I just want, for example, this key down here in the bottom, so I can drag from top left to bottom right of that key. And then I also want the compass. I can actually crop multiple areas at the same time and then hit done, and then we'll insert both parts simultaneously so that I can use both of those to work with. So there's my key, and then there is my compass just a little bit below. So sometimes you have to scroll down to see that other part of it. And now I've got both pieces of the image that I inserted there for me to use however I'd like to. And just some tips for using images on the iPad. So in order to manipulate them in Classkick, you need to use 2 fingers. So you can resize them by dragging in and out, or you can rotate them by dragging or by twisting your fingers around in a circle. You can also lap them over each other. And so the way that we do layering on Classkick is the last one inserted is the one that gets put on top. So for example, because this image was inserted after I put that text on there, it should overlap the text that I wrote. However, we leave lines on top of everything else. So if you need to highlight something on top of a picture, you can actually just drag it over there because the pictures will always appear underneath the lines. Okay? So some teachers have been asking us, how can I differentiate my assignments to have students be able to respond to a scribe or to a prompt, but maybe without typing, or they're struggling writers? So students can actually just record their voice, and they can record it over multiple pages. So if you have them start recording on this page, so start of walk, an example sentence, and then they flip over to another page, write your name using the green pen, and then flip over to another page, type using this button. Wherever they hit stop, and then save, that audio piece will be inserted into that last one that they worked with. So in this case, here it is on this last page. That's the one that I was just working with. This is an example of just being able to do some oral reading fluency quizzes. You can quickly flip between everything and make sure that your students are able to record whatever it is that they're seeing on their screen. They also are able to turn feedback on and off. So if you have feedback coming in from multiple sources and you just feel a little overwhelmed as a student, you can always flip that feedback, toggle it off by hitting that little pen, like feedback looking image in the bottom right hand corner. So when you flip that off, then you're actually hiding the feedback. You're not erasing it, but you're just hiding it for now so that you can get back to work. And then if you want it again, you can always toggle it back on. So that's another tip for your students. Also, students can say, please help me on any question that they need help on. Or I have a lot of teachers who have students raise a please check hand at the end of the assignment when they're all done with everything. And they'd like the teacher to go back and check everything. And now with receiving grades, that's a way that a student can indicate that they're ready for the teacher to grade the assignment. In the top left-hand corner where the hand is, this is where you give help to your classmates if your teacher has turned it on. And so just some hints around there. If you're jumping in as a helper, we often suggest that you give feedback by using a different color than what the original student wrote in. So a lot of teachers emphasize that they want their students to write in black, they want a helper to come in and write in blue, and they as the teacher write in red. So if I'm being student helper right here, I might say something like popsicles are delicious, or whatever I'd like to say to this particular student. And remember, if I'd like more room to write it, if I'd like this to be a little bit neater, I can just zoom into this page, and that way my writing is a little bit neater. So popsicles are delicious is the feedback that I'm giving. It's in that light blue color. The teacher knows that I was the one that left it and the original student wrote in black, or whatever it might be. Also, if I've gotten feedback on a different page than the one that I'm looking at, as a student, I get this little bell notification in the top corner that lets me know that I've gotten feedback on another page. So in this case, I got feedback on number 2, so I can jump over and see that feedback. And I'm like, wait, I'm not sure which part of this is the feedback. Remember that I can toggle that on and off and go, oh, they were telling me to write my name using the green pen. That seems a little out of date now because I wrote it using the green pen, but now I understand. I can also export my work. So if I'm looking to start this on the iPad, but at home I don't have one, then I can always send a web URL to myself and then continue that work at home on whatever it is that my family owns. Maybe it's a desktop computer, maybe it's a laptop. This web link is also useful to have other people jump in. So if I want an older brother or sister to help me correct something that I'm doing or interact with me or give me feedback, then I can have them jump into my assignment as well using that web link. Okay, so those are our tips and tricks for working as a student in Classkick. I'm going to show you some things as a teacher now. From this page, I go over to Teacher Head this way. We do automatically save your username and password, but if you're looking to eliminate that, so because you're sharing a device with someone else, you can just jump in here and delete your username, and that way it will no longer be saved. In this case, also, if you're having any issues logging in, you can tap on the Having Issues button, and that will open up our Classkick connection page, which goes through some tips and tricks on trying to connect to Classkick and seeing issues. So I created, why can't I log in? It could be because your Wi-Fi isn't working, or if you can log in but your students can't, maybe it's that the URLs that Classkick needs to access are being blocked. If you're trying to reset your Classkick password, here are some hints. And then if you can log in but things don't look right, this may be because you don't have the latest version. Or if none of those solve your problem, then please reach out to us at support@classkick.com or on Twitter or on Facebook. Getting back to the app, if I'm logging in as a teacher, excuse me, then I'm going to see all my assignments down the middle, and you can see that I have quite a few assignments. What I like to do for differentiation is make multiple copies of the same assignment or differentiating within an assignment. First, I'll show you multiple copies. So in this case, if I've made 4 different versions of the Gift of the Magi for my students, I'm actually going to do these with most recently opened. I put them one at each level of SAMR. So at the first level, the substitution level, students are just reading the text and responding to it with text. There's no addition on than what they could just do on paper and pencil. They can just read, they can see the text, they can see the pictures, they can interact with it. But otherwise, everything is pretty normal. And then I'm actually also going up the level of blooms as I keep going with this. So in the augmentation level, I've given the students the ability to see, watch the entire Gift of the Magi as a video, or to hear the extra vocabulary, different text is being read to them out loud using these different parts of it that I recorded, or they can jump in and see what imputation might mean as a vocabulary word, and so get other kind of augmented help that way. And they can then poke around on there. I also ask them to continue the story. So I'm asking them for a little bit harder information, and I provide a rubric at the end of each of my assignments. 1, because I want the students to grade themselves before they turn it into me, and 2, because we're working off the same language in terms of what it is that we're looking at in any given assignment. So here, for example, this rubric for augmentation, I'm asking them to rate how they feel their continuation went when they wrote it. How were their ideas, their organization, their word choice, and their fluency and conventions. And then I go through and grade in another color, and I actually circle there with the color that I'd like to show with my students, usually red, and then grade from the top. So that's how I'm kind of handling grading. Then at the modification level, they have the same access to different things in terms of the video and the audio and the separate vocabulary, and I did that actually by duplicating this assignment and then adding some new things on at the beginning and the end. So in this case, I wanted to bring in the symbols that are used throughout the story. So I brought in storyboarding, and then I asked them as their product to make a storyboard. And I gave them an example of what I'd like it to look like. You can provide as little or as much scaffolding as you need to. So if certain students, for example, need images of what this could look like, then you could go in as a teacher to different students that are on your roster and say, okay, here's an image of what I'd like it to look like, or here's some story starters for you, and just jump in. So maybe, for example, for Alyssa, she needs this. So you jump into Alyssa and you give her another example or a sentence of, please start your sentence with, and so on and so forth. Whereas another student doesn't need that help, and so you don't give that feedback there. Finally, the last one is the redefinition level. So at this level, I actually ask the student to rewrite the story as if it took place in present day, but still using the powerful imagery that O. Henry provides. And then with that rewriting, so here's kind of my scaffolding for giving them that prompt. With that rewriting, they will post it to our classroom blog, as well as to Twitter and Google Plus communities that we've established as a classroom, giving them that authentic audience. So it's not just me that's grading their work, but they're actually seeing it being used around the world. So that's a way of differentiating in multiple assignments. There's also, I have an example of differentiating in a single assignment. So for example, here is Ideas That Pop, which is just a short passage about inventing. And then I've got 3 different levels of questions. So for example, what is the main goal? Underline where you got your answer in blue. What is the main goal? Then describe what the passage is mostly about. And then what is the main goal? Describe what the passage is about and create a new use of bubble wrap to share with the class. And so on this first page, I might indicate to different people, I want you to answer question 1, I want you to answer question 2, I want you to answer question 3, and actually point at them or kind of guide them to where I'd like them to go. And that's just a quick way of differentiating within my assignment so I can still see all of my students' work going down. Okay, if you need any help in Classkick, just let us know. Jump in here and say message us in here back today, or feel free to watch the Getting Started menu again, which has our training videos or our pre-made assignments, as well as our frequently asked questions and videos and user manuals are here on classkick.com/teachers, which is available by tapping on that button in the app, and then you come here and you can see all of those available to you. And finally, if you'd like to see any new features, then please vote for them on our Vote for Features tab. And I told you I would show you how to turn on tips. Here is where that option is. If you tap that button, then they will turn on for the next user of Classkick. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Laura at classkick.com if you need me. Have a great day. Bye.